Let me tell you something that's really been boiling my blood lately. I cannot believe the audacity of Burna Boy, a so-called Nigerian superstar who has the nerve to stick his nose into South African affairs, complaining about Miss South Africa not being black and not hailing from his precious Nigeria. The sheer stupidity of this man and many others like him is beyond comprehension. It's as if the more I encounter Nigerians, the more I realize just how brain dead some of them can be. You'd think someone with his platform would have a shred of common sense, but apparently not. Let me break it down for you. Burna Boy is mad. Yes, seething with anger that a Nigerian girl who desperately tried to fake her way into Miss South Africa didn't get her way. She wasn't just some hopeful contestant. She was a fraud, a phony, and everyone with half a brain knew it. Her parents, in a disgusting act of deceit, obtained a South African citizenship through illegal means, and they actually thought they could fool us. Newsflash, South Africans aren't fools. We see through the lies, the scams, the dirty tricks. We know that 99% of Nigerians living in South Africa are living with fake IDs, forging their way into our system like parasites, and this girl was no different. So why does Burna Boy think we should have just accepted this nonsense? Is he so deluded, so completely out of touch with reality, that he thinks South Africa should be a dumping ground for Nigerian fraudsters? Because let me tell you, that's not happening. Not on my watch, not on the watch of any self-respecting South African. We were confident, no, we were absolutely certain that Chidimma wasn't one of us. The nerve of these people trying to pass her off as South African, as if we wouldn't notice, as if we would just let her slide by. Are you out of your mind? What Nigerians need to do, and listen carefully, because this is the only thing that will save face for them, is to take Chidimma and all her deceitful ways back home. Let her compete in Miss Nigeria where she belongs. That's right. Pack your bags and go. Instead of fighting tooth and nail to keep her here, far away from her homeland, they should be ashamed. Ashamed of the lies, the corruption, the absolute disgrace they've brought upon her and themselves. They owe it to her. No, they owe it to the world to stop pretending and start taking responsibility for their actions. Let me make this crystal clear. South Africa will not be a playground for Nigerian cheats and liars. We have enough to deal with without adding more fraud to the mix. And if Burna Boy or anyone else has a problem with that, they can keep their ignorant opinions to themselves because South Africans are done with this nonsense. Get it through your thick skulls. This is our country, and we will not be played for fools. As South Africans, we are proud of our diversity and the unity it represents. We embrace the fact that the new Miss South Africa isn't black because it's about the content of character, not the color of skin. The best woman won, and that's what matters. But what truly baffles me, what really gets under my skin, is the audacity of some Nigerians living in South Africa. They claim to hate us, to hate white South Africans with a burning passion, yet here they are, living in our country, trying to impose their will on us. The hypocrisy is staggering. How can you despise a place so much, yet cling to it with everything you've got? It's stupidity at its finest. Now, let's talk about this Nigerian contestant who was rejected from the Miss South Africa pageant. The truth behind why she didn't make it through needs to be laid out clearly because the facts speak volumes. When she introduced herself on TV, millions of Nigerians living in South Africa jumped up in excitement. They recognized her name, they were familiar with her story, and they cheered for her as if she was their golden ticket to taking over South Africa. There was talk, chatter, and whispers of how they were going to conquer South Africa through her victory. But South Africans stood up and said, "No way, not in our country." You see, we South Africans are well aware of what's happening under our noses. We know that 99% of foreigners living in this country are here illegally, and we've had enough of being played for fools. As soon as this Nigerian contestant started gaining attention, South Africans took to social media, launching a campaign calling for an investigation into her background. And guess what? That investigation bore fruit. It turns out that we were right all along. The Minister of Home Affairs dug into her records, and lo and behold, they discovered that her mother had used someone else's ID to obtain South African citizenship. Can you believe that? This means that the Nigerian contestant herself was using a fake ID, a fraudulent identity that was built on lies and deceit. It doesn't end there. This Nigerian contestant was married to a Nigerian man, which means he too is now an illegal immigrant in South Africa, along with their child. Their entire existence here is based on a lie. They've registered businesses, made money, and lived their lives using fake ID numbers, effectively stealing from the South African system. And they actually thought they could get away with it. But the most infuriating part of all of this is the reaction from Nigerians. Instead of owning up to the deception, instead of accepting that they were caught red-handed, they're furious that we didn't let her win. They actually believe we should have ignored the fraud, turned a blind eye, and handed her the crown. Are you serious? The arrogance is mind-blowing. It's as if they think they can come into our country, break our laws, and then have the nerve to tell us what to do. Let me tell you something. South Africans are not fools. We see through the lies, the scams, and the fake IDs. We will not be overrun by fraudsters and cheats, no matter how loudly they shout or how hard they try to manipulate the system. We have every right to protect our country, our people, and our institutions from being taken over by those who have no respect for our laws. To Burna Boy, to all those Nigerians who think they can dictate to us from within our own borders, stay in your lane. If you hate South Africa so much, then why are you here? If you think you can cheat your way to the top, think again. We won't stand for it. This is our home, and we will defend it against any and all who try to undermine it. So take your fake IDs, your fraudulent claims, and your delusions of grandeur and get out. South Africa belongs to South Africans. Let's get one thing straight. When we talk about representation, we're talking about someone who embodies the essence of South Africa, someone who understands our culture, our languages, and our way of life. But what do we see with these so-called foreigners who think they can waltz into our country and claim the right to represent us? They speak English, they wear their traditional attire, and they cling to their own languages and religions, yet they demand to be accepted as Africans. And somehow, they expect us, true South Africans, to adapt to their ways instead of them adapting to ours. Are you kidding me? Take Chidima, for instance. This woman knew her roots, knew where she came from, and it's painfully obvious that she was raised not to adapt to South African life. She only speaks English, a language that 90% of South Africans don't speak fluently, yet she thinks she can represent us? She's married to a Nigerian man, and her Instagram is plastered with Nigerian and Mozambican flags. That's right, 2 flags that have nothing to do with South Africa. And she wants us to believe she's one of us? No way. We're not blind. We see what's going on here. We don't want to be represented by someone who doesn't even acknowledge our country in her identity. Let me tell you who does represent us. The lady who actually won Miss South Africa. She's deaf, and she speaks Afrikaans, a language spoken by many Black South Africans. She represents a huge portion of our population, people who often go unheard and unseen. That's what true representation looks like. It's not about ticking a box or filling a quota. It's about having someone who genuinely understands the people they're representing, someone who lives and breathes South African culture. And yet, despite all this, we've got foreigners like Chidima who think they can come in and hijack our identity, our culture, and our pageants. They want to stand on our stages, wear our crowns, and claim our victories without putting in the work to understand what it means to be South African. Well, I've got news for them. We're not buying it. We've had enough of being told to accept people who don't respect our ways, our languages, or our culture. If you want to live here, if you want to be a part of this country, then you'd better be ready to adapt to us, not the other way around. So let me say it loud and clear. We will not be represented by those who don't represent us. South Africa is for South Africans, and we won't let anyone take that away from us. We are proud of our winner, a woman who truly embodies the spirit of our nation, and we will stand by her no matter what. Chidima, you had your chance, but it's clear you were never really one of us. So take your flags, your foreign ways, and your demands, and go back to where you came from. South Africa doesn't need you, and we certainly don't want you representing us. Guys, let's not beat around the bush. South Africa is being sold out from the inside. For the past 60 months, We've seen countless Home Affairs officials being arrested for selling South African IDs to foreigners. And guess what? This isn't some rare occurrence. This is happening every single day, all the time, right under our noses. When you see a foreigner in South Africa, there's a 99% chance that they're here illegally. And do you know why? Because our own officials are selling out our country, making it a playground for anyone with the cash to buy their way in. Let me give you a taste of just how deep this rot goes. A former administration clerk at the Department of Home Affairs in Cleary Park, Eastern Cape, was recently sentenced to 5 years in prison for passport fraud. This scumbag, Tony Stout, was found guilty of using the identification details of South African citizens to alter passport photos, allowing foreign nationals to obtain South African passports fraudulently. Do you understand what that means? People who don't belong here, people who have no right to be here, are walking around with our IDs, claiming to be South Africans, and it's all thanks to traitors like Stout. And this isn't some isolated incident. The Hawks, who investigated the case, arrested Stout in Kaburha on March 26, 2021. After his arrest, he was let out on a measly R500 bail, but the truth kept surfacing. By August 8, 2024, the Kaburha New Law Court had finally convicted him on 9 counts of fraud and 9 counts of contravening the Identification Act 68 of 1997. He was slapped with a 5-year direct imprisonment sentence, no option for a fine, and was declared unfit to possess a firearm. But does that really solve the problem? Stout is just one of many, and for everyone caught, there are hundreds more out there, selling our country piece by piece. And do you know what's even more infuriating? The sheer scale of it. One Home Affairs official can sell 1,000 IDs in just one day. 1,000 fake South Africans created in a matter of hours. And why? Because there are no checks and balances. None. Our system is broken, completely and utterly broken, and it's being exploited by people who couldn't care less about the damage they're doing to our country. This is why, when we see foreigners in South Africa, we know that they're most likely here illegally. And who's to blame? The very people who are supposed to be protecting us. Instead of safeguarding our nation, they're selling off to the highest bidder. And then we're expected to sit back and accept it? We're supposed to let them represent us, take over our pageants, our jobs, our resources, all while they laugh in our faces? Hell no. We need to wake up, South Africa. This is our home, and we're being betrayed by those in power, those who are supposed to serve us. The Miss South Africa pageant is just the tip of the iceberg. This is about more than just a crown. It's about our identity, our sovereignty, and our future. We need to stand up and say, enough is enough. We will not let our country be overrun by fraudsters and criminals, whether they come from outside or from within our own government. South Africa belongs to South Africans, and we're taking it back. All right, let's cut the crap and get real. We grew up with white people in this country. We've been living side by side with them for over 300 years. And now who the hell do these Nigerians and Zimbabweans think they are, telling us to chase them away? These fools have the audacity to tell us to get rid of the very people we've built our country with. But let's look at their track record, shall we? In their own countries, they chased white people away, thinking it would magically solve all their problems. Did it? Hell no. It did nothing but drag their economies into the dirt. I heard some Nigerian guy bragging that there aren't more than 1,000 white people left in Nigeria and that they're happy with that. What a load of rubbish. But here's what baffles me. Why the hell are these same Nigerians leaving their so-called white-free country in their millions, flocking to white countries in search of greener pastures? It's absolute nonsense. And it's not just the Nigerians. Zimbabweans pulled the same stupid stunt back in 2008, chasing away white people as if that would fix anything. And what happened? Their country crumbled, and now millions of them are living in countries run by the very white people they chased away. The hypocrisy is astounding. And now these people have the nerve to come to South Africa, a country that welcomed them, and tell us to chase away the white people we've lived with for centuries? Are you kidding me? We didn't start seeing this influx of African migrants until 2010, when the World Cup brought them here. They've barely been here for a minute. And already they think they can dictate how we should run our country? What utter bullshit. Let's be real. These people are here because their own countries are a mess. And now they want to drag us down with them by spewing this nonsense about chasing away white people. What would we gain from that? Absolutely nothing. They're the ones who will leave at the first sign of trouble, running back to their mess of a country or some other white country they claim to despise. Meanwhile, we'd be left to pick up the pieces. So let me say this loud and clear. Nigerians and Zimbabweans, if you don't like the way we do things here, there's the door. You can leave South Africa anytime, and frankly, we won't miss you. We've got one country, and it's up to us to take care of it. We're not going to let some outsiders who can't even manage their own countries tell us how to run ours. They're not the ones who have to live with the consequences. So they can take their bullshit advice and shove it. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, like, and share. Stay tuned for more. And remember, we have one country and we need to look after it. These so-called advisors from Nigeria and Zimbabwe are not to be trusted. They can pack up and leave anytime things don't go their way. But this is our home, and we'll do what's best for it.